Hello, everyone, and welcome back to some more WSSEA Overwatch coverage. We've got a good matchup tonight coming at you with Colville and Lakeside playing each other. And I believe Control, Hybrid, and then if for some reason then Escort. Then if we tie an Escort, then we go to a Clash. But I don't think we've ever really seen that happen before. I am Eki in the booth with Saminami. I'm feeling pretty excited about today's matchup, but before we get started, I do want to give a quick shout out to Zotac for powering today's stream. Thanks to their support, we are able to bring this broadcast to all of you, helping showcase the amazing talent in Scholastic esports across all levels, whether it be middle school, high school, whatever level it may be. You can show your appreciation to Zotac by giving them a shout out on your social media platforms. Make sure to join their community on Discord, and don't forget to use the hashtag powered by Zotac or Zotac USA when you post. But with that out of the way, I'm feeling pretty excited about today's matchup. I hear we're going to be starting on Lijiang Tower for the first round, and that map, always exciting.
Yes, it is actually. Map very much loved by many teams across all stages, be it middle school, high school, collegiate, and pro level. So it really is, I think, going to depend, however, which part of Lijiang Tower we're going to be starting on, because you could have a very strong dive start or a very strong brawl start going into this map here.
Right. And I think it's really important which map you start on. I think that is something you really cannot overstate. Me personally, I like Market. I like that. I like that one. That one's my favorite part of Lijiang. Some people say I'm crazy. I think it is probably the best part of Lijiang. Granted, Lijiang itself is just a pretty good map in general, so it is kind of hard to play favorites with stages, but I am a big fan of Market. I can't remember off I think it's Tower with the point in the middle of the tower and the gaps on the edges, but it looks like we're going to be going to... Man, I really wish I remembered all these maps off the dome. Yes, Control Center.
Yes. We were talking about Garden as that other one. Garden's the one I'm personally not a huge fan of, yet I do know a nice little trick with Reinhardt to jump the gap that surprises a lot of enemies. But it's hard to pull off if you're not used to it here. And speaking of Reinhardt, take a look at that. Already going to have that selection in there from the Doctor.
I don't think I've ever seen Reinhardt played here, so it's definitely going to be an interesting... I mean, granted, I've only done a handful of WSSEA casts, but I don't think I've seen Reinhardt picked. And I don't really see him picked that often on Lijiang. I guess if you're going to pick him on any of the maps, it would be Control Center, just given that it feels very, very choky, and that shield should give your teammates a little bit more of a nudge to, hey, peek with me here, don't just sit there and, do nothing. But that said, we've got the Jetpack Cat bringing the Orisa in on the flank, immediately getting a lot of good damage onto the Bastion. Going to be able to pin him up against the wall, should be able to find a pick here, but no, they will not. Reinhardt comes in, but Jetpack Cat going to be able to find that pick onto Bastion, immediately traded out in a very valuable trade. All at the end of the day, as Orisa goes down, they will lose their life lever, however, on Colville. And it looks like Lakeside, for the time being, is up in numbers, does have an advantage with Reinhardt being down on the side of Colville. Now Reaper going to be able to find a pick as well onto Emre. Orisa finds the pick onto the Reaper, and it looks like things are going to die down here as Lakeside has taken the first cap.
So the biggest thing that you do have to deal with here, that's a very deep in there. Orisa not going to be probably living for their life, because you get caught out very easily. The big strength right now for Lakeside is to play the distance and range. It works very well against Brawl, but that doesn't if you put yourself out of position like we saw earlier.
We immediately see the tank swap from Rhine to Ramatra, so definitely trying to switch up the playstyle here. The Zenyatta does have the Transcendence online, could try to make a big play happen here. They're about 3/4 of the way on that cap time. The Ram Nemesis form into the Emre, going to be able to find that pick. Jetpack Cat ulting, trying to drag the Ram off of the map. They're not going to be successful in doing this, however. Ram stays on top of the point, fighting the Orisa with the remainder of the team, but Cat getting in some good healing here. Reaper trying to get in onto the Orisa, but TP's into the entire enemy team. That is going to be a spear hitting that Reaper into the wall. They have to get away. Zen forced to pop the Transcendence to push their team forward. Orisa does have their ult here, so we could see something big. It looks like an ult angle if I've ever seen one right here, and it's going to get popped. Should be able to find at least one. They're going to be able to find Lifeweaver in that. I believe that should be all she wrote for this fight. Ram going in to maybe try and find a pick or two to make their life valuable with the Reaper in tow. They're going to be able to find a pick onto Soldier, who now also has their ult online. And I feel like that probably should have been a good point for Lakeside to reconvert, but
yeah, I mean, your biggest strength here is actually getting these early picks. As you're seeing it there, the supports are going down immediately, so this is actually a huge opening right now for, I'd say, Lakeside to push upon.
And it looks like that's exactly what they had planned to do, but immediately they lose both of their DPS, so they only have tank and supports online. Orisa, 66 of the way to their ult. Moira with the Coalescence is there. Now DPS back online. Emra and Soldier both have ults ready to use. Lifeweaver and Reaper and Bastion, conversely, have their own ults ready to fire. Bastion could put a very quick and speedy end to the ults of Emra and Soldier if they time it right, but I don't know if they'll be able to. Full team ults online for the side of Lakeside. Soldier has fallen, now has Emra. Orisa going in with the ult. It looks like Jetpack Cat trying to take the Reaper off the map. Should get the pick, but no, he TP's up to the ledge just in time. Will survive. DPS just coming online for the side of Lakeside. Those ults still on the table. Zenyatta with Transcendence now on the side of Colville, and Jetpack Cat is in deep, trying to keep this Moira up alive, or is retreating, I should say, not in deep, to keep their Moira up and alive. Emra still has the ult. Bastion back with their ult as well. Emra just, I guess, feeds in there. An unfortunate bit of positioning from the side of Lakeside there. They're going to lose a player. Zenyatta doesn't pop the Transcendence in time, and they will be stuck at the respawn queue as the final potentially fight begins on the point. Orisa trying to get in there with that E, but not really going to get any value out of it. Reaper with the fade finds the pick onto the Soldier, and they will find the Elim onto Orisa and now onto Moira, and they have nobody left to effectively deny this point. So it looks like after all of that, Colville is going to be walking away with the first round of Legion.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that you were seeing as a deficit here was that Emery really could not get that ult off. That Protocol Annihilation actually has huge impact in the fights, but you have to activate it early. You can try to launch yourself up very quickly with a nade, or use a shot to propel yourself out, but if you do not get that ult into play, it actually is a huge waste, because it does a lot more damage than people think. It's a bit of chip damage over time, yet it hits very, very hard against squishies.
Absolutely, and I mean, given that you're a DPS, your job is to eliminate those squishies anyway. I mean, granted, there are some times where just shooting the tank has become a viable option, but you really don't want that to be your main focus. You want to try and get those squishies out of the equation as fast as possible, and I think if you're able to at least find any angle, when you're in that stage, it kind of becomes desperation in that point, but at the end of the day, looks like off-rip, this should be a battle won for the point off-rip for Lakeside, as they are on top of the point here. Although I'm not sure if the teams have been flipped yet. We are waiting. So for the time being, we will say that, okay, blue is Colville and red will be Lakeside. So Lakeside does have the point right here. They got 10% off of the cap. They won an initial fight there, got Ram off of the map, I believe is how they found that pick. Now he's coming back in to take the fight. Soldier on 40 HP, just trying to get some spam damage through. Bastion lands a nice nade to whittle them down just a little bit more, activate that reduced healing for a brief moment. Preparing themselves with these perks here that does throw a nice nice mix into things. The turret form coming out, trying to get some good damage. The ult is online for Bastion. They do not have Lifeweaver. He has just respawned, so their only thing is in the form of Zenyatta. Moira and Emra are down, however. Jetpack Cat and Soldier are very weak. Jetpack Cat does have their ult now. Soldier has gone down as well. They have only lost Reaper, all things considered, in this fight, with Lifeweaver coming back online, and it looks like they're going to be able to win this fight pretty heavy-handedly, but at the cost of about half. Ram, though, does get a late stagger death onto Orisa, and that will force them to wait just a second longer, and that should net them a little bit more capital.
Yeah, I mean, that stagger out is actually a huge plus, and I think there was a bit of a miscommunication there, unfortunately. They wanted to go for the flying helicopter combo, but it just dropped unexpectedly there, so that's a huge waste, unfortunately. All they have is that cat ult there, and the slam could drag someone away, but it needs to be perfectly timed.
The slam does get through. They get onto the Ramatra. The cat drags the Ramatra off of the map, so Colville has lost their tank, but they are ahead in cap time, trying to get some good damage. Focusing on that Reaper, pressuring and bullying him away, but a nice spear from Orisa and finished off by Soldier. That will get them on the side of Lakeside a good pick to work with here, trying to get themselves a little bit of cap time advantage. Matra just peeking out to see what's happening, sees the cat, tries to take some pot shots at him. Nothing really special happening here. Taking the 1v1 with the Orisa, but they are getting healed, so this is going to be something you have to watch out for. The Discord Orb onto the gold Orisa will nullify the effects of that gold a little bit, but not by too much. The ult does come out from Ramatra, though, and they are getting in. They find 2 picks immediately. Both Emra and Soldier have fallen to the ult, and now they're going to be able to find a pick onto Orisa, and now a 3rd pick from the Ram ult onto Moira. The cat does manage to get away using the outside boundaries of the map as cover, and they will find themselves back at spawn. Colville has flipped the point. They still have a good bit of time to make up. And they are immediately getting back in on the side of Lakeside. They are trying to take this aggression as fast as they possibly can. Full spear charge hits the wall. Not going to be able to find anything. Shield up here to stop the spam. Lifeweaver trying to get some damage onto the Orisa here, potentially fading away. Tree is online, 11 HP. They try to use the tree. They don't Ajax, thankfully, for Colville, but they do not get that tree up. They do have, however, 4 ults online, 3 able to use at any given moment. Reaper is in on Jetpack. Cat can't land these final shots to get the killing blow. That doesn't matter. They bully the cat away. They immediately regress. However, the Reaper is in behind Moira, and Cat could potentially get an ult off here. Yes, they will. They're going to be able to find the pick onto the Moira. The cat does drag Bastion off of the map. Now bullying the Reaper, forced to fade back into the point as it is overtime. One good fight could win it all right here, right now, but Emra's the only one down on the side of Lakeside, and Colville has a lot to make up. Reaper very low. Ram staying alive on the point. Going to be able to find the pick into the cat. Down to half HP. Now a quarter. Now 1. Not going to be able to live. And the overtime slowly ticks away as Lakeside should be able to take this. But will they be able to hold on and get this score tied up at 1 apiece?
I mean, that's a very good question. You actually have some game-winning ults right here with the Protocol Annihilation from Emery, the Terror Surge from the Orisa, and the Coalescence from the Moira. They could combo all 3 of those together to pull them in for an explosive burst down that could stop any push from coming through.
Absolutely, and now Bastion getting in with that turret form, focusing down the Orisa. This is one of the few times you want to just focus the tank down. They're so low, you got the Discord Orb on them. Moira trying to get some good damage off and defend the point as best as they possibly can, but with 3 down, there's only so much they can do. Now both supports are down, only the DPS are alive, and they'll have to fight the point with only Emra ult, and this could go in their favor if they play it right. But overtime is slowly ticking down, and they will not make it to the point in time. As you can see, Soldier on the screen just barely missing out on contesting at the last moment to reset that overtime clock. But unfortunately for Lakeside, Colville will walk away with the round win here on Lijiang.
I mean, you got to really give credit here to how Colville played this, especially going in with this annihilation there. Not only did they read the situation, but they propelled themselves forward, dominating the push.
Yeah, I mean, they played that very well. That annihilation, I mean, that was just very well executed. Got in, focused the squishies down off rip. Didn't try to waste a lot of time getting on the tank. And I think that's something that we're seeing is very, very helpful for Colville. They've got their target priority in order. And that's not to say that Lakeside doesn't have that. Of course, we've seen that they are also focusing the squishies. But I think Colville is doing it with a little bit more efficacy. And I think it's working out just a little bit more in their favor. But it's definitely not something that Lakeside, can't come back from or make up for.
Yeah, I think it really came down just to very small mistakes. We had, in a lot of situations, players getting picked off before a fight even started.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in that very last fight, that would be that Emery specifically. So you couldn't even get the Protocol Annihilation off to be able to get in the damage, shut down the Tree of Life, nor the other form of Annihilation that Ramatra had running into that fight.
Mm.
It was just a very, very great pick early on. And I think you have to try to either focus on having a safer angle to play from, or you need to be proactive in your abilities that pushes your opponent back and makes them hesitate, even when they're forced down to the wire to push through the chokes.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things there is I understand wanting to hold that Emra ult. I understand wanting to hold it till you got a great opportunity, but sometimes you just gotta press Q. Yeah, it might not be the greatest ult in the world, but you don't need your ult to be, a 3K or a 4K or anything to really have great effect. Even if it's just zoning. I mean, I do this all the time when I play Cass. You don't necessarily need your ult to eliminate people. You just need it to get them away from wherever you're trying to go. And with Emra there, I don't think we saw him find an opportunity to use their ult at any point. They were holding it for just a little bit too long, and I think that came back to bite.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, positioning wise, they're very frontliney. They put themselves very much close to danger, the way a Reaper would, a Junkrat, even a Cassidy potentially. As Emery, you don't want to be that close. You want to be like a Baptiste, where you stay back. You keep your distance because you don't have that damage fall off that other characters have to deal with. So you can very much punish the distance that people don't take against you.
Absolutely. And I mean, really the biggest thing that you can do there, like you said, you want to play it like you're a Baptiste. You don't want to be as far back as him, but you don't want to be as far forward as, like you said, a Cass. These are people that are very frontliney. Emra is kind of in between. He can frontline, but it's very risky for him. But if you can get away with it, then absolutely, I think you could exploit that. I think you should exploit that. But that's only if you can get away with it. And once they learn you're doing that, they're not going to let you get away with it for much longer. They'll realize you're an easy pick and they'll get you. So playing back, playing high ground, I say this all the time. This is a universal truth, regardless of what game you're playing. High ground is your best friend. And if you can play it, I have to say that you simply must. But as you can see, we are on Route 66 for this upcoming match. Looks like Colville will be on the offensive. Reinhardt getting out immediately on 10 ult charge. Must have landed a very good fire strike, contesting the high ground. Or sorry, no, Colville is on the defense. I got my colors mixed up. I apologize. But Reinhardt hit a very good fire strike at the beginning of the game. Nonetheless, Reaper does try to get in and get some good damage. Orisa is going deep, gets pinned in by the Reinhardt, does force it with the Kiri Suzu. Could they get a double here? They will get Kiri. Lifeweaver will fall, but they trade it out immediately. Reinhardt gets a 2-for-1 hammer down. Or not a hammer down, but the hammer does come down on top of their heads, as he finds a 2-for-1 swing to wipe out that team. They force staggered spawns, and they will hold on to this first point with an iron grip.
No, that was a great example of aggression right there. That is what you have to do as Reinhardt, because given that he can only attack through melee, he must be able to close the distance fast and furiously.
Absolutely, and one thing I've noticed, I'm a Reinhardt enthusiast. I like to play him whenever I play tank. One thing that's very important is getting people who charge into you, you pin them away, and you force them into a 1v1. Because most tanks, they're not going to be able to beat you in that 1v1. They take crazy damage off rip. Maybe a Maunga if you're fighting them, but even then, as long as you have one guy look with you, you get that free pick. Now, Lifeweaver will fall to the Orisa, but that is immediately traded out as Reinhardt charges in, gets the pin behind the Orisa on the Bastion, and will find that pick as well. Reaper got the find on Orisa. So the hammer down has been expended for real this time, not me mixing things up. It actually has been a hammer down from the Rhine. And they will be able to get a couple picks off of that. Orisa is coming in with 83, now 85 ult. Kiri has Kitsune Rush active, and it will be used. It has been thrown down, so they are trying to push as best as they possibly can up through this choke. And they're going to get this cart through, so this gives them a lot of good space to work with here. They've got some high ground that they can contest. Bastion is pretty weak, forces the Kiri to look at them, forces out the Suzu of all things. Emra goes down, Mora goes down. Bastion is still very low, and so too is Orisa. Bastion will fall. Orisa on half HP gets taken down immediately as the Reinhardt gets in with a charge. Now Reinhardt taking the 1v1 with the Kiriko, and it's a team wipe, a 5K for the side of Colville as they are putting on a clinic for this defense.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually really phenomenal. Believe it or not, Brawl is the weakest composition to run on a map like Route 66 here. So the fact that they're getting away with it so effectively is very surprising. You don't get to see that such pressure.
There's a big hammer that should come out here, and it does. The hammer goes through the floor. They're going to only be able to find the M-Ray with it, though. But Reinhardt pins in, should get a free pick onto the Moira, and yes, they will. That is a DPS and a support taken down. Bastion ult used to take down the other Bastion on Lakeside. 2 ults expended here. Reaper still has Death Blossom, as the side of Lakeside here tries to inch their way forward once more. They've only got 40 seconds left on the clock. Reinhardt gets in and gets the pin onto the Orisa. They have to force out that gold form. Discord Orb still on top of them, so that Orisa could get down at any moment. Reaper harassing the Jetpack Cat as he should, trying to force them away and make it so that their healing projectiles take just a little bit longer. And all you need is a couple seconds, maybe even a fraction of a second, to make it so that this Orisa does fall. But they're not going to be able to really successfully do anything. But that Reaper ult is going to come through, and it's going to be a massive one. He's going to get 3 with that Reaper ult. He gets Emra, gets Moira, gets Orisa, and then Reinhardt comes in and cleans up the Bastion with the Fire Strike, and that is all she wrote for this round of defense. But wait a minute, Jetpack Cat is in on top of the objective. Could they contest for long enough for the rest of their team to come in and make something happen? They will not. Overtime has ticked all the way down, and Lakeside has not even broken the first point. They're only 39, let's round up and say 40 meters, because 39.93, if I remember right. Yes, it is. They really didn't get that far in.
No, they definitely did not. This is a very tough thing about escort maps, is that you can feel similar to hybrid maps, that if you can't get around that first corner, you almost find yourself stuck. And now that you have 4 minutes that you have to defend against, it's a very, very tall order that you must meet. If I'm looking to counter Colville right now, I am thinking, all right, we got to bring out the Ramattra, we got to bring out the Mei, we have to be able to poke them out to make sure that they cannot get that brawl pushing into us. We also got to be watching our backside there, because the Rhine got away with a lot of charges coming from the high ground into the enemy there. So you're going to find yourself that a lot of communication needs to be followed up with here.
Absolutely, and excuse me, I'm not the biggest fan of the team composition here. Maunga, Mercy, Bastion, you're banking a lot on hit scan. And what I was thinking for Colville here is you've got, I think, 4 minutes to barely move the cart. You run hyper dive. You just dive in. Get an Ana back there. Get a Brig maybe. Honestly, even a Lucio to keep up with your Doomfist, since that's what you're running. And then on the defending side of things for Lakeside, you run yourself a Brig, maybe a Zenyatta to kick any of the divers away. Brig, if they're just a little bit too far, whip them away midair. There's plenty of things you can do here, but you do have to play around that lower healing output. Doomfist gets in with a nice midair punch onto the Mercy. Very well played, feeding the charge. They get away onto the health pack. Doomfist needs to fall there as they immediately lose their Bastion as well. Now, Bastion on Colville getting a lot of great value, taking down the Maunga, now taking down the Symmetra, and I think that is the end of this series, as Colville will walk away with the win on Route 66. They get a cinematic shot of the moon, of all things, to end out that game there. And that should make the series score 2-0, since this is a best of 3, unless they played 2 games of Payload. I'm not sure. I would imagine they only played the 1. But
no, I believe it should just be the 1 there, but we were talking about this earlier. The amount of value that the Reinhardt found there was probably insurmountable. I think the Ductor, really big MVP for his team there in the series today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that Reinhardt found immense value. So much value that probably should not have been something that they got away with, if I'm being honest with you. That was a lot of getting in with charges, pinning people that probably were maybe a little bit overextended, if I had to be honest. But hey, I'm a lowly plat. I'm not the best. So take what I say with a grain of salt. But maybe some people a little bit overextended. And overall, I mean, just great Ryan play, recognizing the situation, not swapping, because you're not getting punished. There's no need to swap. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, we saw initially in the first round on Control Center where the Rhine did swap to Ramatra, and that worked out very, very well for them because they were playing into that Orisa. But I mean, when you're on Route 66 and you're just trying to defend Reinhardt, definitely going to be a good pick there, and it worked out very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it from my side that Rhine can get away with quite a lot. Not really something you should see on a map like 66 typically, but if the opponent does not know how to break it down or focus properly, it is very, very strong tank that does a minimum of 100 damage just on every interaction. So it's kind of insane what they can get away with.
Yeah, I mean, if you let that Rhine get crazy value, they're going to get pretty crazy value. But I guess before we go and before I do our final ad read, do you have any shout outs to give?
Not in particular. I mean, there's always going to be something going on in the background. However, we do still have more matches, but we'll share that more after our read here. Go and take it away, Eki.
Absolutely. This broadcast is a part of LANFest Scholastic Esports program. That is a program that supports this league and many others. Since launching, LANFest has delivered over 300, not 3, not 30, 300 broadcasts to Scholastic leagues in Washington and Indiana. We provide these broadcasts free of charge to the league, schools, and teams we cover. Your generous donations make this possible. Every $200 raised covers the operating cost for one regular season broadcast. Not one game, not 1 month, not 1 week, one season of broadcasts. If you appreciate the work of LANFest, scan the QR code on screen and throw some change our way if you are able. And with that said, like Saminami said, we have more games coming up. Our next stream, which I believe will be tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. That's 7 Eastern Daylight Time. That will be Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with Soap Lake versus Walla Walla. So definitely a game to look out for there. I am personally excited to catch me a glimpse of that because I got nothing going on tonight. So I can tune in for a little bit and see some Smash action. But I think that'll do it for us here tonight. It was very fun covering this match. Congratulations to Colville for winning out the series in a 2-0 sweep. And I hope to be in the booth with you again soon.
Likewise here, Eki.